Walter Brennan. Have you ever heard this name before? If you haven't, then you must be living under a rock. It's been more than a few decades since his death, however. This man is still remembered by many. And for what, you may ask? Well, not for anything good, you see. He used to be one of the most versatile actors, but one thing led to another. And finally, he met his downfall. Walter Brennan, the most evil man in Hollywood, was much obviously not exactly called evil before. Let's dive deep down into the history before everything fell apart, and how the much-loved Oscar-winning actor was declared the most evil person in Hollywood even after decades of his death. Walter Brennan, one of the most influential and versatile actors of his time, came into this world in Lynn, Massachusetts on the 25th of July, 1894. 2 miles away from his family's home in Swampscott, Massachusetts. His folks were both Irish immigrants. Brennan's father, William John Brennan, was an architect and inventor. Likewise, the young Brennan concentrated on designing at Ringe Technical High School in Cambridge, Massachusetts. But he was still interested in acting, though. On the other hand, his mother, Margaret Elizabeth Flanagan, was a homemaker. Then started an unfortunate turn of events when World War I broke out. He used to work as a bank clerk when he was enlisted in the U.S. Army. Brennan then answered the call to serve as a private for 2 whole years with the 101st Field Artillery Regiment in France. During the war, there was an explosion of mustard gas that injured his vocal cords and left him with a particularly distinct, reedy, and piercing voice that actually turned out to be a good thing for him. It turned him into the #1 choice for celebrity impersonators who mimicked him for a long time. This chapter of his life somehow ended. Walter was now ready to begin a new chapter and focused on himself to conquer all his dreams. It was just the beginning of what he could have never even imagined would come true. His journey from a man working multiple jobs to a superstar on the big screen. He started working as a financial reporter for a newspaper in Boston and made a fortune in the real estate market during the early 1920s. However, he lost all his money when the real estate took a wrong turn. But at the end of the day, he found himself penniless. Tragedy, tragedy, tragedy. It was as if things would never work out for him, and seemed as if happiness skipped the door of his life. He might have thought about how unlucky he was when everything in his life was almost hopeless. Someone suggested to him about acting, and he knew that he was an acting enthusiast when he was young, and reminisced about the time when he made appearances in the vaudeville productions. He was not so sure about this, as it was not something he would have liked to pursue as a career, as he didn't know what was there on the other end of the road. Having no other option left, Brennan took refuge in the world of showbiz and began taking parts as an extra in the movies at General Studios in the year 1925, starting at $7.50 every day. However, things started changing, and they changed for good. The stairway to the most amazing things had just opened. Like, obviously, he didn't rise to stardom in an instant, and it took a long time in his career to touch the epitome of his career. That was a long journey, and not a good one. Things were all tragic and sad, and when everything hits rock bottom, anyone would like to give up at this point in their lives. From working multiple jobs to losing money and then experiencing the epic World War I is already depressing enough. But if you're thinking of giving up in life when things are not working out your way, then you are missing out on the fun that you are supposed to experience, along with the pain. Only if Brennan had given up, no one would even know about his existence, and the domination he still has today in the film industry would never have happened. So giving up should never be an option. This is a lesson we must learn from him. He didn't care about what others thought and continued with his acting. From working as an extra to making small appearances, the man burnt all his midnight oil for like 10 years, and finally established his place as a supporting actor. Brennan never imagined things to turn out this good after all that he suffered. And after all this, his hard work and patience finally paid off, when he gained worldwide recognition even though he was working as a supporting actor. He became well known for his distinct and unique voice. People praised him for the versatility he put into the roles assigned to him. All of this was visible to the audience, even if the duration of his acting on the screen was less at that time. From the year 1925 to 1929, Brennan played minor roles in films and series. He started receiving bigger roles in the early 30s in films like Neck and Neck, directed by Richard Thorpe. It was just around this time when Brennan was finally having a sigh of relief. Something happened, which he described as the luckiest break in the world. Want to know what that something was? During a fighting shoot, an actor kicked him in the face and knocked out all his teeth. Ouch! As a result, he had to wear false teeth. I looked all right off the set, but when necessary I could take him out and suddenly look 40 years older, he said. The man was a true optimist. The ultimate turning point for Brennan came when he was cast in The Wedding Night, which was produced by Sam Goldwyn, alongside Gary Cooper. All this time when he was out of the public eye, this break put him in the spotlight. He was just an extra, however. His part was increased during the shoot. This had a positive result, and it worked out in his favor as he ended up getting into a contract with Goldwyn, which meant that Goldwyn could loan him out to other studios. And Goldwyn lent him very often to other studios. Brennan was cast in West Point of the Air in 1935, the same year. The man didn't stop there, he even worked as a stuntman then. His parts, however, remained small. He did a short in The Perfect Tribute and Alice Adams the same year, but his parts were unfortunately deleted. He continued and was completely dedicated to the job regardless. No one has a genie to make all their wishes come true. It definitely takes time for good things to happen. Although things were moving at a very slow pace, we all know that it takes time for a man to rise from the flames like a phoenix. And he did. He rose to fame, behind which was all of his blood, sweat, and tears. Walter finally earned significant roles. For instance, a decent part in Goldwyn's Barbary Coast, directed by Howard Hawks, with an uncredited William Wyler. "That really set me up," Walter said as he managed to get himself out of the role as an extra for the first time. Later, he continued making small appearances in movies like Metropolitan and 7 Keys to Baldpate, and finally got himself a role as one of the leads in 3 Godfathers, playing one of the outlaws. After that, he posed for a small role in These Three with Wyler, and a large one in Walter Wanger's The Moon's Our Home and Fury, directed by Fritz Lang, all in the same year. Now comes the journey to his rise to stardom. Walter's breakthrough came when he was cast in a period drama, Come and Get It, the same year as Swan Bostrom by Howard Hawks. Apart from his exceptionally phenomenal performance in the film was known for its beautiful cinematography and moving performance. This was his first notable movie where he played the role of the sidekick of Edward Arnold, who eventually marries a girl named Arnold Abandons. Later, Howard was fired and replaced with William Wyers. Walter's performance was well appreciated and earned him the first Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. He played in several other films as a supporting character in Banjo on My Knee, She's Dangerous, and When Love is Young. He was supposed to appear in The Real Glory as announced by Goldwyn, but he ended up not appearing in the final film, not even as an extra. However, Walter had his first lead role in the affairs of Cappy Ricks 1937 at Republic Pictures. He co-starred in Fox's Wild and Woolly alongside Jane Withers, followed by The Buccaneer, directed by Cecil B. DeMille. Walter was then starred in The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, playing the role of Muff Potter, the town's drunk and accused murderer. He followed it with The Texans, Mother Carey's Chicken, and Goldwyn's The Cowboy and The Lady with Gary Cooper, where he played as Cooper's sidekick for the first time, all in the same year. Kentucky, a horse racing film from the 20th Century Fox, with Loretta Young, released in the year 1938, earned Walter his second Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. He played Peter Goodwin, who was a passionate horse breeder, and was a guide to his daughter, resulting in rivalry between Dillion and Goodwin families. He portrayed the role amazingly and earned himself the Oscar for the second time. He supported Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers in The Story of Vernon and Irene Castle, 1939, followed by Melody of Youth and Stanley and Livingstone in the year 1939 at Fox. Walter was typically called upon and was cast to play characters who were significantly older than he was. It was no doubt because of his appearance. It was not only because of his teeth that he lost during the fighting scene that he looked old, but also his unusual reedy voice due to the mustard gas explosion, the rapid thinning of his hair, and his thin stature automatically made him look older than other men of his age. But as mentioned before, this man was the ultimate optimist. He used this as an advantage to himself. He had to use fake teeth. In MGM's Northwest Passage, a film set in the late 18th century, he wore a denture that made him look significantly older with rotten and broken teeth. Later, Zanuck at Fox announced that he wanted to star Walter alongside Will Rogers in The Man from Home. But for a change, he was top billed in Fox's Maryland in the year 1940 instead, which was actually an attempt to repeat the success of Kentucky. Walter's been working since Christmas 1937, and to this he said, "I'm just plain punch drunk." Good things were just starting to happen. A third masterpiece was released in the year 1940, The Westerner, in which Walter had one of his best roles of all time. Walter played as a villain, starring as Judge Roy Bean together with Gary Cooper. Cole, who was played by Cooper, was accused of stealing horses, and in no time found himself in front of Judge Roy Bean. Using many of his tactics, he manipulates the judge, knowing the fact that he has a special affection for Lily Langtry, claiming to know her, escapes the death penalty. He then falls for a homesteader whose father was killed by Bean's henchmen. Cole then tracks down the judge seeking revenge for the love of his life. It was a film directed by William Wyler. His performance in the movie earned him his third Oscar within 5 years. Brennan was particularly skilled in playing the sidekick of the protagonist or the grumpy old man in films such as Hawks to Have and Have Not. Brennan's next supporting role was in Nice Girl in 1941, where he supported Deanna Durbin, and then Cooper again in Frank Capra's Meet John Doe. He later got a role in Hawk's Sergeant York, a role that earned him his fourth Oscar nomination, all in the same year. As Walter was now quite popular, he got himself a role in Swamp Water, the first American film directed by Jean Renoir. He later made an appearance in Rise and Shine and played reporter Sam Blake in Pride of the Yankees. As mentioned before, Walter was known to be a very versatile actor. It enabled directors and producers to cast him in all types of genres. After all these, he also made appearances in war films like Stand By for Action, 1942, and later played a Czech professor in Hangmen Also Die. Brennan played the role of a comic pirate in the Bob Hope film, The Princess and the Pirate. He was teamed with John Wayne for the first time since both men had obtained stardom in Dakota, directed by Joseph Kane. Brennan made a comeback as a villain as the Old Man Clanton in John Ford's My Darling Clementine, opposite Henry Fonda, and followed this with his parts in Nobody Lives Forever at Warner Bros. And Republic's Driftwood. He appeared in another American film on Fox, Scudda Hoo, Scudda Hey, and then in one of the greatest films in his career, Red River, playing John Wayne's sidekick. After supporting Robert Mitchum in Blood on the Moon, he played another kindly father role in The Green Promise. Walter's appearances in films did not restrict his boundaries, and he went on to make several appearances in television shows, guest starring on episodes of Screen Directors Playhouse, Lux Video Theater, Schlitz Playhouse, Ethel Barrymore Theater, Cavalcade of America, and the Ford Television Theater. He then played as the old outlaw Joe in the 1956 episode Vengeance Canyon of Dick Powell's Zane Grey Theater. He gained worldwide popularity after participating in all these shows along with American movies. Walter then appeared as a musical judge in the Jukebox Jury in the ABC series from 1953 to 1954. He later expressed that he preferred television shows more than movies, and reasoned that there were not long layoffs between jobs. However, he continued playing in movies after his time on the ABC series. In movies such as Gunpoint and The Proud Ones, and also made an appearance in a short film about Israel, Man on a Bus. He now started multiple projects at a time and appeared in films such as Glory, 1956, Come Next Spring, and Batjack's Goodbye My Lady with 14-year-old Brandon DeWilde, with whom he recorded The Stories of Mark Twain that same year. Walter served in countless movies as a supporting cast and extra. There were times when he was cast as a lead. In 1957, he was given the lead role in God Is My Partner, which was a low-budget film but surprisingly was a hit. Walter was then cast in The Real McCoys. Even after his continuous rejection and resistance to star in this television series, which was about a poor West Virginia family that relocated to a farm in Southern California. He, however, played his part, and unexpectedly it turned out to be a hit, running from 1957 to 1963, skyrocketing his career and gracing him with more screen time and appreciation. Walter appeared in other films and other TV shows such as Colgate Theater and other Howard Hawks pictures, Rio Bravo, 1959, supporting John Wayne and Dear Martin. His role in the movie Rio Bravo left him with an unusual behavior of limping, because his role required limping. People wondered if it was real. From this, we can tell how good of an actor he was. It was quite difficult for him to shake this habit off instantly, and took months for him to recover. After 5 years on ABC, The Real McCoys switched to CBS for the final season to air. Following his success in The Real McCoys, he started his singing career and performed on several recordings. Acting was not the only thing he could do. He wanted to expand his scope and wanted to try out new things. And as the statement stands, where there is a will, there's a way, Brennan never left the key to success that is hard work, and even stretched out his limits to music. The most popular of all was Old Rivers, which was a song about an old farmer and his mule. The song was released in the year 1962 by Liberty Records, and it affirmed its position at number 5 in the U.S. Billboard chart for the actor turned singer. Walter was 67 years old then, and was the oldest living person of his time to have this achievement, and to have a top 40 hit at that time. He reached the top 40 again with Mama Sang a Song on November 17, 1962. This man had something inside him that gave him the drive to still go on and on, reaching different levels of success and never getting tired. He even started doing voice acting and debuted as the voice for a cartoon of the shooting of Dan McGrew. Another short-lived ABC series called The Tycoon, launched by the year 1964 and continued till 1965, where he starred as the wealthy executive Walter Andrews with Van Williams. Walter had a supporting part in Those Callaways, which was his first Disney movie, paired with Brandon DeWilde. In 1967, he starred in another ABC series, The Guns of Will Sonnet, as an older man in search of his gunfighter son. The show continued for 2 seasons. From 1969 to 1970, Walter received top billing over Pat O'Brien in the TV movie The Over the Hill Gang, and Fred Astaire in The Over the Hill Gang Rides Again. Walter did make guest appearances on Alias Smith and Jones when he joined the 2nd season of the CBS sitcom, and his appearance in To Rome with Love with John Forsythe was his last television series as a member of the permanent cast. Around this time, he also starred in the TV movies The Young Country, 1970, Two for the Money, and Home for the Holidays the same year. Walter fell ill and was replaced when the filming started for Disney's Herbie Rides Again in the year 1973. His last screen appearance was in the western Smoke in the Wind, directed by Joseph Kane. This was all about his career, But what about his personal life? What was going on in his private life while he was achieving all the milestones in his career? Walter Brennan married Ruth Caroline Wells in the year 1920 and had 3 children with her in their 54 years of marriage. In the year 1940, Brennan purchased the 12,000-acre Lightning Creek Ranch, which was 20 miles to the north of Joseph, Oregon. He built the Indian Lodge Motel, a movie theater, and a variety store in Joseph. He would take refuge in the ranch whenever he didn't have his shot. After his retirement, he spent most of his time at his ranch in Moore Park in Ventura County, California, till his death. Sadly, he died of emphysema on the 21st of September 1974, at the age of 80 in Oxnard, California. Brennan was described as one of the finest character actors in motion picture history. He played diverse roles and played in more than 230 films and television series during a career that spanned nearly 5 decades. He was a versatile actor starring in many movies, but the ones he is still best remembered to this day were for his portrayals in Western movies, as in Judge Roy Bean in The Westerners, Trailhand Nadine Groot in Red River, and Deputy Stumpy in Rio Bravo. For his hard work, dedication, and contributions to the film industry, he has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame at 6501 Hollywood Boulevard. In 1970, he was inducted into the Hall of Great Western Performers at the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum in Oklahoma City, where his photograph hangs prominently. Walter was the first actor to win 3 Academy Awards and remains the only person to have won the Best Supporting Actor award 3 times. Now comes the part we were eagerly waiting for. The part where the mystery uncovers. As we have talked about his life and his career, he seemed to be a super nice and confident person. A well-spoken man, a man driven with all the passion to work hard, never giving up even when life smacked him more than 1,000 times, following his dreams and achieving everything that one could ever wish for. Then why is he given the throne of the most evil man? The question of how things took this turn, that even after 50 years of his death, people still define him as the ultimate villain, is truly mind-blowing. What did he even do that turned his years of hard work and dedication into nothing but dust? He was well known for his carefree attitude, without a care of what others had to say. This is a quality to envy, but still an underlying curse. Racism. A big, scary word, eh? A word people were afraid of then. Now, and we don't know for how much longer. Walter was described as the nation's grandpa. The title originated due to the characters and roles that he played in the majority of his movies. He did not really care a lot about people's skin color, but was still accused of making racist statements. He was a Roman Catholic and never publicized his religious affiliation, and said, "I'm too old not to be a religious fella. It appears we are losing something a lot of people made a lot of sacrifices for." Walter was convinced that the anti-Vietnam War and civil rights movements were influenced by the overseas communists. Carl Rollison, Walter's biographer, wrote that Brennan thought that Watts riots could have been stopped with a machine gun, and quoted what Brennan said, "All this trouble with the Negroes are caused by just a few of them." Rollison also reported that Brennan's home included a bunker stocked with weapons and food in anticipation of a Soviet invasion. This was just the start. His racism was even more enhanced when people saw his reaction to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s death. As stated, Stanley Frazen, a film editor of The Gun of Will Sonnet in 1967, was stunned to see Walter celebrating and dancing when Martin Luther's death due to assassination was announced while everyone else was mourning. He has reportedly expressed satisfaction at his death. And man, that was not it. There were several other instances. For example, Frazen recollected his memories and described the moment when Walter was happy at the death of Robert F. Kennedy's murder in June 1968. The writer of The Real McCoys described him as a bigot who frequently uttered racist remarks. Racism was not the only thing. Walter's communist views also added to the hatred. He was fiercely opposed to communism and reportedly branded people as communists if they supported John F. Kennedy, as stated by Rawlinson. To Walter, activists were victims pulled by Marxists who desired to conquer the world. These views of Walter, with a mix of his tasteless and senseless actions of celebrating and expressing his satisfaction at the cost of others' death, are some of the reasons that he is crowned as the most evil man in Hollywood. Walter was viewed as a kind country boy by the public, who was outspoken and free-spirited. He could have used his on-screen popularity to spread love and peace and clear his image. As mentioned before, he was a Roman Catholic, and despite his Christianity, he never offered to spread the message of peace or love. He even recorded tracts at a John Birch Society convention, expressing his advocacy that straightforwardly pointed towards his hate for all the things that were in opposition to his beliefs. According to Walter, the civil rights movement led by Congressman Adam Clayton Powell was just a way to force the communists to take over the nation. He viewed those who didn't align with his thoughts as country-hating communists. With the rise of the internet and social media, every single individual has his or her own theories, with all types of comments, true or false, with no evidence for backing up. Things were so different in the olden days. Walter would have never thought that the few lines he expressed would turn his hard-earned name and fame that he put all his heart into all upside down. He started to become paranoid after all that happened. He had convinced himself that communism would outgrow the Soviet nations' minds and they would invade the US to destroy democracy. It was a deep manifestation through his actions that he anticipated throughout his life. In 1964, he joined the Project Prayer Rally along with another actor, Anthony Isley, which was attended by 2,500 people, including all those who were against the removal of school prayer at the Shrine Auditorium in Los Angeles. He was annoyed by the decision to remove the school prayers, as he saw it as a premonition to the downfall of the country. With aging, his paranoia only continued to climb up the stairs. He even told his daughter to not allow his grandchildren to listen to the Beatles, as he was scared that they would be infected with a decadence of modernity and all of its sinister woes. And this is the story of how he was declared as the most evil man of Hollywood. Do you think that this man rightly deserved the title of the evil man? Or was he just one of the pawns influenced by? What are your opinions on how people came to this conclusion? Let us know how you feel after listening to his story from climbing the stairway to stardom and then falling into the abyss of darkness, down in the comments section below. And don't forget to click that like and share button. Smash that subscribe button and click on the bell icon to turn on the notifications for more videos like this, because you don't want to miss out on these, do you?